Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I have a special breakdown covering some of my favorite altcoins that we've already made good profit on so far. I've been covering these altcoins for the last couple months and we've been nailing every single swing high and low. We've reaccumulated on the dip. We're already up almost double on the way back up, and the TVL of this chain is now breaking out and going into new all-time highs. I firmly believe that the people position in some of these altcoins are going to make the most money over the next couple months, and especially over the course of the entire bull run. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, here we are to jump into today's video, and it's so exciting seeing what's playing out in the market. When we're looking at the total altcoin market cap, breaking out of this massive bottom formation that we've been in for 600 days approximately, us retesting this and getting continuation, words don't even explain how bullish this really is. I know that most people don't understand technical analysis. They don't really understand the fullness of how to play the cycles, and I like to go back to the last cycle and share with you guys the exact example of what played out leading into our new all-time high move. We spent about 600 days, if we come all the way to the point of us breaking out. This point was about 560 days. So almost the same amount of time that we had spent in our current bear market for the price of the altcoins to break out of their bear market bottom, retested as support, and that is where we got the reversal into the new all-time highs. So when we're looking at our current market structure, the same time frames are playing out, the same similarities in price, us breaking out of a major 600-day bottom formation, retesting it as new support. This is where we're about to start a similar type of move. Now, we don't have to necessarily go straight into a new all-time high like this. I wouldn't be surprised to see the altcoins run up to here, make some type of correction like this before we do end up seeing that much bigger move into price discovery, because altcoins are lagging just a little bit. But when we're talking about this next breakout coming, especially, assuming I'm wrong and we do go into a new all-time high that quick, anything's possible. I've been wrong in years past, and that's why I tell you guys the best thing to do is, now that we're breaking out, hold your coins. Pick the ones that you think are most bullish and just look to capitalize on the long-term trend. What we're seeing right now is the best opportunity and really the last opportunity we have to make a lot of money. I put about 300 grand inside of the market when we had just broken out of that bottom formation, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life, because that's really how I changed my life in crypto. So now that we're seeing the exact same setup, I've put all of my money into crypto. I'm already all in. I've been all in since the bottom. I had way more conviction inside of this bear market bottom than the last one. And so with this one, I'm already positioned. All I'm doing is holding. I recommend everybody else do the same. But with that being said, I wanted to talk about some of the altcoins that I'm holding, some of the ones that I think are going to be best positioned to make a lot of upside potential, and why I think that they're going to see so much gains over the next couple years. So the first one I want to talk about is PulseLaunch, because these guys actually announced their official launch, and that's going to be March 2nd. So you guys definitely need to save this in your calendars, because when I think about the best performing crypto ROI terms on this entire list, this one's going to be the top one. I've worked with every Launchpad project inside of every one of our last cycles. With this cycle, I've had the opportunity of being able to see how even Ape Terminal was working before they ended up having all of their issues, and it gave me a lot of confidence to work with PulseLaunch because of the fact it's actually community governed. The issue with all of the launchpads I've ever seen in crypto is the fact that the founders themselves are sketchy, they usually are pretty greedy, and they take a lot of that profit for themselves and don't give it back to the token holders. With PulseLaunch, it's the first one that's going to be community governed, meaning it's the community themselves that get a vote on the projects that get launched, so it's ultimately you that has the say in which projects are vetted and added to PulseChain. And then on top of that, when you're talking about which projects launch, any profits that are generated on the chain actually gets rewarded back to the token staker. So if you want something long-term that's actually going to do really well, it's the only launchpad I've ever found that genuinely rewards the token holders. It's the only one that I found that actually has a huge value proposition. With it being on PulseChain, the unique advantages it actually has being truly decentralized. And with PulseChain taking off in TVL, I have nothing but confidence this is going to be one of the big winners. So with the launch coming up, make sure you check out their socials. I'll link them below. Alrighty guys, first one on today's video is going to be Hex. Now this is the original version of Hex, because keep in mind, once PulseChain launched, they duplicated the entire Ethereum network, so everybody that was holding Hex got a copied version over on PulseChain, which is called PHEX. So when we're looking at this, I looked at this setup yesterday, and I saw pretty much the biggest bullish divergence I think I've ever seen on an OBV. This is a weekly time frame, And we made this massive lower low when we had the PulseChain launch, and it actually duplicated it. We saw a lot of dilution take place inside of Hex, and this caused the market to sell off. However, as the market is bottomed out, we're seeing this big inverse head and shoulder formation. We're right at the point of breaking out of the neckline resistance. Once we break out of here, we have a pretty obvious target to identify, which to identify it, you're just taking the height from the head to the shoulder, and then you're just copying it above. So you're looking at a reversion all the way to almost 6 cents. So from where we're at right now today, and keep in mind I'm on a log scale, so it's going to look a little bit different if you're on linear, but you'd be looking at almost a 4x, which is going to put us right into that, descending resistance territory, almost to the exact dot. It's funny how chart patterns line up like that with long-term descending resistances. It does look like we're pretty much just going to go straight to this resistance, and from there I would expect a correction back down, retest this prior level, of where we bottomed when the rest of the market bottomed at the end of the year 2022 and beginning of 2023. Even though Hex made a lower low, I think that that's the level it's going to recapture, will maintain support, and that is when we're eventually going to break out of this long-term downtrend. The thing about Hex that people are absolutely fading is you have all of this bullish divergence forming on, a huge time frame that's playing out. But when we're looking at the ROI, from where we're at, we're already pumping like 30% since my update yesterday on Twitter. But from where we're at still to this day, you're looking at almost a 50x just to those all-time highs. I firmly believe that this thing is going to surprise people. It's going to go back to those prior all-time highs, and everybody that faded it just like they did in the last cycle is just going to miss out on a lot of free money, in my opinion. Now, coming over here and looking at the P hex, this is the hex that everybody was duplicated, right? When you were holding hex on the Ethereum network, when they launched PulseChain, everybody that was holding hex got it duplicated, and this is the token over here on Pulse, which is called P hex. This one's broken out of all descending resistance in the short term and the long term time frames, and we're currently retesting this range high as new support before we get continuation back up. I do believe that this thing is about to really start breaking out in a big way. In the short term, we're going up about another 40%, but I do think that this thing's about to go into a new all-time high, considering when we're coming over here and looking at the TVL of PulseChain, it's going into a new all-time high. And that's the thing most people aren't considering. The TVL, had the same price structure, or, if we actually pull up the price, you can see the comparison. The price itself went way lower than the TVL. So as the TVL is actually going into a new all-time high, the price is still sitting here at about the mid-range. Volume precedes price, and you got to understand that to be able to play market cycles. Oftentimes at the bottom of a market cycle, you'll see big breakout volume, and that's what's telling us, hey, volume's coming in here, there's somebody in here buying the market's holding steady, it's holding support, and that's more or less what we're seeing right here. The market of the price has just been doing nothing but making higher highs and higher lows for the last 6 to 8 months. The TVL is now making a new all-time high. Volume precedes price. We will see the volume. As it's going into a new all-time high, the price will catch up to that because it's ultimately pointing the direction the rest of the prices are going to take. So with watching this thing's about to go into a new all-time high as well. I think that this mid-range consolidation is about the same as this new all-time high consolidation, because once the TVL goes, you're going to see the prices just absolutely explode, in my opinion. Now, coming over here and looking at Pulse, this thing is showing some of the most bullish divergence I've ever seen. We made this absolutely massive breakout right here, and the OBV made a lower low, which just perfectly showed how bullish this thing actually was. And then even right here, we made a higher high in price, yet the RSI made a lower low as well. So we had double bullish divergence playing out on big time frames. This is a daily time frame. And now that we're retesting this mid-range, this actually followed perfectly to my plan. My first video of this was all the way back right here. And I said how all we're doing is a wave 1 and wave 2, and we're getting ready for this wave 3. We perfectly hit the wave 3 targets, pulled back, retested the middle of the mid-range exactly like I covered, and now we're getting ready for our next impulse in the cycle. When I look at this thing is about to go into a new all-time high. I think that this thing is about to surprise a lot of people, and at only $1 billion market cap, Hex hit 88 billion in the last cycle. Hex hit 88 billion in the last cycle without ever being listed on a centralized exchange, without ever being listed on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap or any of the other indexes where every other crypto is listed upon, and it became a top 10 crypto in the process. So if you don't think that the layer 1 itself, where cryptos can actually build upon, where all kinds of new development can be added in multiple different value propositions, and you don't think that, it can't at least hit the same market cap, that's an 88x from right here. Just hitting the same market cap as what Hex hit in the last cycle. So I do believe that it has at least that 50 to 100x potential going into this bull run. And with what we're seeing in the TVL, this thing is about to go into that new all-time high. The TVL is already at this territory up here, it's like sitting up here. And so I do think that the next move for this is those all-time highs. We might see a pullback. But big picture, this thing's just going to absolutely keep skyrocketing in value. People are fading it. And what's interesting is this looks a lot like the original Ethereum chart. So if we come all the way back to Ethereum's very first adding of exchanges, it just reminds me of this same setup where you get this big ABC correction, price kind of rounds out, and then you start breaking out. I believe that we're at the exact same sort of territory in PulseChain. Obviously, the market cap of Ethereum was much smaller at this point, so the price structure will vary, but we're looking at the same sort of thing. You know, if PulseX or Pulse is going to end up doing 100x, you know, the price is going to absolutely go crazy from here, and it will dwarf this last cycle. So be aware of that. You know, I do believe that this has 100x potential, 100%. It's the most decentralized chain in crypto. There's no other cryptos that have the token supplies that they do existing on chain, the volumes that they do existing on chain, and it's just truly something that I think is special and shouldn't be overlooked by any stretch of the woods. This is something that's real DeFi, considering everything exists on chain. Most cryptos at Arbitrum, as much DeFi exists over there, it's not all on chain, and its chain is not even fully decentralized. So we have to keep these things in mind. Even though I'm super bullish on Arbitrum and Optimism and Metis and all of those, I think that this one is still going to serve a huge purpose. And I do think that 100x, guys, $1,000 into 100 grand, that's life changing for anybody in my opinion. So, you know, don't underestimate the power of PulseChain. Coming over here and looking at PulseX, if you want one that's going to outperform the value, I would probably go with PulseX, considering, you know, it's been added to exchanges since May of 2023 approximately, and it's already burned like 3.5% of its supply. It has extreme deflationary tokenomics, and that powered with a true bull run is going to see this thing fly. It's twice as big as Uniswap. It has literally twice as much liquidity as Uniswap does. And if you're seeing that happening already to begin this cycle, I think that that's such a huge, you know, warning sign to everybody that this thing is getting a lot of adoption. How is it that PulseX, you know, the swap platform of PulseChain, already has twice the amount of liquidity as what Uniswap does? Is that not mind-blowing to anybody? Most people aren't going to believe that, but that's just the truth of the matter, guys. And most people are going to fade this market because it has super deflationary tokenomics. Once the real hype sets into this, once the TVL starts breaking out new all-time highs like it is, we're about to see this thing absolutely skyrocket. All we did is retest this mid-range. This is our first higher high of the new cycle, you know, and I do think that this thing's about to send it pretty much straight to that prior all-time high territory. In ROI terms, from where we're at today to those all-time highs, you're looking at about a 1.3x. But when we're talking about this thing long-term, we're just looking at this entire cycle being pretty much nothing, looking at the same thing that happened here in all of these other prior cycles as well. So just be aware of that long-term for PulseX. Now coming in here and looking at liquid loans, this is one that I really like. Overall, we ended up breaking out, but in the short term, we ended up making this final sort of lower low, which is normal. Notice how we had all of this new breakout volume. I talked about how at the bottom of a market cycle, you'll see new volume come in at the price breakout of the descending resistance. All of that lines up. This is also happening as we just retested this prior support level. This is our first higher high of the new cycle. As we've broken out, we've made this new breakout in volume. Even though we made the lower low, this was just us retesting trending support, and it technically wasn't even a lower low. It was a double bottom formation. So as long as we hold support like I think we will, this thing's about to reverse in a big way. The whole market of PulseChain's about to reverse in a big way, but when we're talking about Fibonacci targets, the thing about PulseChain is this thing's about to blow up, but the ROIs of all these coins are just absolutely massive. You know, I think that these things are going to surprise a lot of people before all of the moon boys start coming over on chain and trading. You know, we're looking at minimum target of almost 3x. 2618 being 4.5x, and the 3618 being a 6.3x. So this thing's going to absolutely dwarf all of these targets, you know, in the same way that all of the other markets did. I don't think that Fibonacci is a way to gauge when to take profits for the most part. For me, I'm holding this, considering we're basically buying at the cycle low. You know, yeah, you probably didn't get in at the very bottom, but we're pretty much buying at the exact bottom that everybody else has been accumulating on. With all this new volume coming in, it's just proof to me that this thing's about to send it, so definitely be watching out for liquid loans. Now, coming over here and looking at Ink, this is my favorite crypto. It's like my dark horse candidate inside of this market. It's doing a cup and handle formation right now. This was the handle, and once we break out of this, it's about to absolutely send it. In my opinion, it will do this type of a move. Coming all the way back up, to $8.50. That's my next target for this, so almost a 2x in this one big move. Notice all of this new volume that came in. Look how much more volume there is right here than there was at the all-time high of the last cycle, even though the all-time high of the last cycle exists all the way up here. That, in my opinion, is some of the best sort of setups you can find. It's still a 25x away to the all-time highs. You just don't find that too often, and this thing is going to absolutely send it in the same ways that it's already been. Like I said, guys, this is my dark horse candidate. If you guys were following my video, you would have bought all the way back down in here. You would have bought the retest. You would have already been up, 90%, almost double your money, and we're still awaiting, this giant move to come. If you would have bought after my video and took these markets seriously, like I told you, from where our re-entry was, you're looking at almost a 50x just to the all-time highs. That's over double what you're going to be getting at right now. So when I'm looking at this, in the short term, it looks kind of like we might be doing a 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're about to get this big wave 5. I think it will be extended because of the amount of volume. I do think that the volume coming into this next move will be smaller than the volume that we saw right here, which is normal inside of Elliott waves. Generally, wave 5 will have smaller volume and wave 3 will have the biggest. So if we're going to follow that, I would expect some type of correction back down. I don't know exactly how low it will go. It could come all the way back down to like $3, I would say, is a good target before we end up reversing. But big picture, this is more along the lines of what I'm expecting. It's normal to see corrections. I'm not saying that we should probably try and call tops, but if we see this thing rocket straight to $8.50, chances are it's not a bad idea to take profits at that level. For me, big picture, I'm holding all of these. I'm not taking profits. I'm looking to hold these the next couple of years, considering that's where my real take profit is, and I've got no problem being able to do that, considering look at all the volume that's in here. That's confirmation that there's a lot of money coming into these markets, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. Coming over here and looking at Hedron, this was another one we talked about. It's already pumped significantly from that video. It's already pumping again just today, and it's looking like it's definitely not going to slow down. From my last video, you're up about 60%, and it's looking like it's going to be coming up about another 3x from here before this move is even over. Now, we have huge targets all the way up here. This thing got absolutely slaughtered in the bear market, but everybody has told me inside the PulseChain community that the developers leading this project are just super geniuses, should really be trusted, and are great people to be looking at, long term as well. So when I'm talking about this, even though it got smashed in the bear market, there's a lot of new volume that's coming in here. This is reversal type of rounded bottom territory that we're at. We've pretty much just broken out of that range high resistance. We're working on the breakout, right? We're pretty much right at that final sort of resistance where once we get out about where we're at here, kind of retest this level, I think that that's where the big pump sets in. We'll see a lot more volume coming in here on this next move. And the ROI, even from where we're at right now, you're still looking at, a couple X's, 2.5, 3X. So, big picture, that's still probably another 15X away from the all-time high. And, these are going to go into a new all-time high, which is crazy to think about. PulseChain is so undervalued because all of the cryptos got smashed in the bear market. There's a lot of money existing on chain, more money on chain than, a lot of the top projects in crypto. And that's going to go somewhere, and I think that these things are going to set themselves up for some very extreme upside potential, so watch out for Hedron. Next up is going to be Teddy Bear. This is one that I recently made a chart about. Coming over here and looking at my Twitter, this was one that I talked about because it looked just like the price of Bitcoin. It looks exactly like 2017 Bitcoin, which is when I really got into Bitcoin for the first time and crypto as a whole. I bought Bitcoin right here at $450, and it was pretty much the beginning of that new cycle. Looking at this cycle of Teddy Bear, it looks the same. It's the same symmetry with the correction, with the double bottom formation, with the higher highs and higher lows on the new trend, and with us now breaking out and going into a new all-time high. This is what happened with Bitcoin shortly after. So we're looking at more of the same. This is the top meme coin on PulseChain, and this is going to have probably the most thriving community, the most die-hard supporters. Look at all of this consistent volume. This has gone into a new all-time high, and it's only done this big sort of, parabolic curve. This hasn't even done a parabolic move yet. This is building the foundation of a parabolic move, and there's so much volume coming in here. And only $33.2 million in market cap. 1,000x would be 33 billion. So, I mean, that would be kind of insane to have that sort of potential play out from where we're at right now. It would have to have a big narrative behind it to do that. I think it's possible. But I think we're looking at more inside of the few 100x range. 100x from here, 330 3.3 billion. I think that that's a good target that we could actually assume long term. So I would be watching out for that. You know, if this thing's going to really send it in a big way, a 10x is 330 million. I think that that is more than reasonable considering this really is the top meme coin of Pulse. If, you know, PulseChain blows up like I think it will, there's no reason why this couldn't be sitting at multiple billions and billions of dollars in valuation. It's going to surprise people. There's already a huge community. There's already a ton of volume. It's making huge gains. We're already up over 10x if you followed my video. Yeah, after my video, we made this final sort of sell-off. So if you would have bought at any point throughout that, you know, even if you bought the exact top before that, you'd still be up almost 6x. So I do think that this thing's going to send it in a huge way. It's my favorite meme coin on the PulseChain network, and it's one that most people, in my opinion, just don't know about, but it's already getting so much volume and so much support that from the community that, you know, it's cemented itself as the leader. It will be the blue chip. It is the blue chip of PulseChain for meme coins, so watch out for Teddy Bear. Next one is going to be Ptgc. It's hard for me to say that for some reason. This thing's been on an absolute tear, and it looks like it's about to be going into another new high. It's got a $15 million market cap, 808K liquidity, so pretty solid liquidity for a meme coin. Now with this one, I do like this from an Elliott wave perspective, considering all this really was just our first little impulse, and I do think that we're inside of a wave 5 of a 3. Looking at this is wave 1 of 3, this is wave 3 of 3, this is wave 4 of 3, and I think that we've got one more move coming. And it's hard to say how big that is. Sometimes these wave 5s can be overextended and make a big blow off top, depending on how hyped the project gets. Sometimes they can be smaller, sometimes they can be, you know, mid-size. They vary, and that's why it's, you know, a little bit hard to play exactly what to do with these. But what we do know here is we saw peak volume playing out inside of this move, and we have had, you know, no new all-time high in volume. We haven't seen a huge sort of breakout. So if that doesn't happen soon, I would anticipate that we'd see some type of a correction fairly soon. But it would be an opportunity to get back inside of the market. When I look at this, this has one of the most thriving communities as well, and you're going to see that across the board inside of PulseChain. All of the communities that have built a crypto get behind their crypto, they stand behind it, and you're looking at a lot of stand-up people that are actually leading these things. So when I'm looking at this, I do think it's going to be one to watch out for long term. They've already kind of cemented themselves as being one of the first movers inside of the chain. You know, at the end of the day, the first mover's advantage is a very real thing, and I think that this is one you should probably be watching out for. Last up on today's video is going to be 9inch, and this is one that's actually broken out from our last video. You are not up significantly, you know, you're looking at like 5-6% so far, but this thing's about to be breaking out in a big way. At $15 million market cap, with this being a 1-inch fork, if you've not used 1-inch, it's just a DEX aggregator. Gathers liquidity for multiple different pools, outsources it to find you the best rate on exchanges, on DEXs. So I think that this one could actually see a lot of value coming into it. Just to the all-time highs, you're looking at almost a 4x. I do think that this thing is going to send it into a new all-time high, and the price structure actually reminds me of a token that I remember all the way back at the beginning of Arbitrum, which, if we come all the way over here, this is one of the leading DEXs on Arbitrum, and it pretty much looks the same as far as this sort of setup goes, where you make this big correction, kind of round out sideways, and then it just starts moving. Now, I'm not saying it quite has to go up this high, but don't be surprised, guys. It only, well, I'm on the wrong one now. At only 15 million in market cap, that's not very much money, and it only has $1 million liquidity, which actually is really good liquidity. But I think the big picture, this thing is going to do, you know, more or less the same sort of setup. It's got good volume, it's already maintained higher highs and higher lows, and I think that this thing is honestly only getting started from here. They did just launch a launch pad, so be watching out for all of that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you found value, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to see how I'm investing my money, which altcoins I'm buying, selling, and trading over the course of the entire bull run, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. It's just a one-time payment, lifetime access, so as long as I'm doing crypto, even when I take profits on crypto and move into other markets, you guys are always going to be able to see how I'm positioning myself long-term. So check it out. Links are in the description. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.